Giordano, no?
Yeah.
All right. John Giordano is with me today over Zoom. Thank you very much. I can hear that you got some family going on in the background. That's
Yeah.
cool.
Wait, hold on.
That's cool, though. It's no big deal, man. It's totally authentic. I mean, that's how it is these days, right? We have to. We're living in this pandemic world, and everyone is from home and doing the thing. Oh, but now you're still on mute. You're still muted. Can you? Your audio's off. Yeah.
Oh, you got it?
Yeah, there we are.
Okay. Sorry.
That's all good. Yeah. John, thank you very much for taking the time. We kind of had some trouble here with the time. I apologize for that. And then originally our first date that we had was also didn't work out. But what it did give me a little bit of time to do was check more of your stuff out. Like I checked out your book. I read into that. So that's you had an interesting childhood. That'd be something that I'd like to talk to you about. But obviously with all the work that you did and are still doing for helping addicts. That's a huge part of what you do. What's the first thing that really surprised me right off the bat or just got my attention was how many papers you've been cited in.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. You know, papers are for me when you can actually look into these scientific journals or into these studies that are peer based. It means there's no bullshit, you know. It's the straight. You're getting the straight information straight out of research that's coming out of your work, right? And you're cited in these papers. Does that?
You know what it is? It's that most people don't listen to anybody that doesn't have any evidence. So, you know, I got hooked up, thank God, with this team of scientists from over 25 universities, scientists, researchers. It was pretty wild.
And it happened like, how long have you been going about this? Let's just get some of the names of this.
I've been treating addicts and alcoholics for about almost 35 years. I'm in recovery myself, going on 37 years.
Yeah. That's and I guess the way that you put it is just interesting to me, not being an addict myself. When you say that I'm in recovery for 37 years, it sounds like, well, wait a minute, like you're still in recovery even after 37 years? That's the language that you use, right?
Well, you know, when some people say they're recovered, and I don't believe anybody is recovered, because life keeps going on and keep throwing different things at you, and you know, you gotta just keep working on yourself and growing. Otherwise, you know, you wind up relapsing.
Yeah, especially now. Like I've seen that right now in this time that we live in, it's just putting such an added pressure on top of everything. Staying at home, not having social contact. It becomes anybody that's vulnerable mentally or physically it's being exploited right during the pandemic. Even
well, you know, they have, I think it was, I'm not sure about the exact number, I think it was 70,000 people OD'd last year. Boredom is a killer for addicts.
Yeah.
And that loneliness and that emptiness and guilt and shame, and now you're locked up in a house and no place to go. It's difficult. They're not going to meetings. They're going to meetings on Zoom, which is great that they have that, but it's not the same really. Yeah. You don't have that personal contact with other people. So it's a difficult time for everyone. So that's why you have to stay in the middle of your program.
What do you mean by that? Staying on ball, not letting.
Well, dealing with the basics. In other words, reaching out for help when you need it. You know, going to therapy, whether it's on Zoom or in person. If you're having a hard time, you know, what happens is that most people that suffer from depression, anxiety, and addiction, they internalize everything and they don't talk about it, and it just gets worse and worse, and then they start using, and that's what winds up happening. So you got to stick to the basics. You know, go to a self-help group. If you have trauma issues, go to a traumatologist, somebody who works with trauma. Those of you who are addicts and alcoholics, you go to a counselor that's works with addicts and alcoholics, not just any counselor.
Right. Now we had another guest on here that was talking about sex addiction, and after I got done with the conversation, I realized I should have asked him a question, but since you also deal with addiction, I thought maybe I'd ask you. He said something about pornography, that you should not consume, like absolutely zero pornography. And I didn't really question it. I just let it fly, and I listened to him, and I was like, okay, I get that, But then afterwards I realized, well, what if you're not an addict? Like,
First, I think you have to define what is an addict.
Okay. So, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
To me, an addict is someone who continues to use a substance or a behavior in spite of adverse consequences and where their life becomes unmanageable. I don't think too many people would disagree with that. Yeah. And what the gentleman said about looking at the porn, it's like somebody who's an alcoholic looking at a drink. Eventually going to take that drink.
Yeah. And the more you put yourself in that situation.
Absolutely. It's just the way it is. It's like, for instance, if you're a diabetic, you're not going to surround yourself with donuts and chocolates and things like that. You're on a different path. So you just, veer off of that.
Yeah. Yeah. I wish I'd asked him that, but I guess, the thing is, like, I didn't want to always challenge. That's kind of the thing that I'm trying to figure out when I'm doing these interviews, is like, how much can I challenge the person?
What I would like from you is you challenge me as much as you can, because first of all, people will do the same thing. And in order for something to be believable, it has to have somebody challenging it sometimes. If it's, if you want to really talk about something, you got to go both sides of the coin.
Yeah, that's actually really what helps, right? Because that's how we can figure out new things, or figure out.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I read here in your profile, there's a couple of interesting things. You've got this karate instructor. So
I'm a grandmaster in the martial arts, national karate champion, Black Belt Hall of Fame. I've been doing the martial arts since I'm 14 and a half. I'm going on 75 now. So
really,
a long time.
Doing good for 75. I wouldn't have guessed 75. What are those behind you? Are those actual samurai swords I see? Or
yes, they are. Nice. They're real samurai swords. I collect samurai swords.
Yeah, I mean, come on, that's awesome. Nice. I can just tell that they got like full on wood handles there. And is that?
Well, those are the carrying cases for the samurais.
Right. Nice. And as a martial artist myself, I have to say that's something that came into my life. I had realized I wish I would have started earlier. I got into martial arts myself relatively late in life, but there's so many benefits to just.
Oh, absolutely. What kind of martial arts are you doing?
I do jiu-jitsu.
Oh, okay. I'm a black belt in judo, a black belt in judo, and a 10th degree black belt in karate.
See, judo guys are always hard for me, because jiu-jitsu, you can start in the sitting position, but when it comes to starting in the standing position, and I have a judo guy standing across from me, there's just they have a whole nother stand game. Their game in standing is just they have a lot more throws, and their grips tend to be very fast, right? You guys have that standard grip that you get. I usually just try and pull guard and sit down and make the judo guy uncomfortable, because they're like, wait a minute, judo guys usually when they get on the ground, it's over, right?
No, the judo guys go on the ground. It's the same thing.
Yeah, there's submissions, right? And it's just.
Oh, absolutely. You choke a guy out, you do an arm bar, you can do a lot of things.
There's just this definitive thing about judo, right? Like, once you get to a certain point, you can get thrown. Like, if you get a throw, it's over, right? Like, if you get the other guy, what's it called? There's a certain type of name for this, the game ending throw that can happen at any time.
Well, it's called the ippon, the point.
Ippon. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
So when you throw a guy on the floor and he lands on his back, okay, that's the point.
And that was it, right? That when you get the ippon, then you're done. Like that, the other guy loses. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, judo. So let's get back to addiction. We have the G&G Holistic Addiction Treatment in North Miami Beach. So you eventually sold that company, but this was this Holistic Addiction Treatment Center was, which I looked on YouTube, is where a lot of this, where you were getting cited in these papers. So is that how that works?
Yeah.
Okay. And the
we did research. What I did was, my son almost died from this disease, and I see so many people dying from this disease. And I decided to take the Eastern medicine and put it with the Western medicine. Most treatment centers are 60 years behind the times, maybe 70 years behind the times now. It's the 28-day model started in 1950 with a researcher who really didn't have any experience, and come up with this 28-day model based on alcoholism. And the insurance companies took it up, and now we have a 28-day model, which is kind of ridiculous if you want to know the truth. And the reason why it is because, look, people go to detox. They call it detox. It's really not detox. It's stabilization. Okay. If you look up the word detox, you'll see that it means to detoxify, to take toxics out, not put ones in. So what they're doing is they're putting in toxins, okay, medicine, to counteract the medicine that's already on board, to stabilize the client. So now the client comes out of detox, or stabilization units, as I choose to call it, and now they're going into treatment if they're lucky. And they're still in a fog. Their brain is still out to lunch. For about 2 weeks, they start to clear up a little bit. Maybe if they might be, they might bond with a therapist, if they're lucky. And then next week they got to leave, which is kind of ridiculous.
I mean, I get that. When you say a stabilization, it means that they're just basically giving you another type of drug to balance out what the dopamine in your brain. Or what are they trying?
They're giving you another drug, so you have your, it's based on your heart also, that you're stable, okay, medically stable, but psychologically your brain, who's going to argue that drugs don't damage the brain?
Right. Be a bad
argument. So what I lecture about is it needs to be at least a 60 to 90 day model, depending on the severity of the illness. They give people a chance to clear up their brain. They give them a chance to, sort things out. And if you see any metrics about changing behaviors, it's usually 90 days.
Right. Even if it's a new habit, even if it's something like I want to start running, or I need to do something new in my life. It's like, if you don't push it through that 90-day period, it's not going to stick.
Right.
For sure.
Right.
Anything. Well, that makes sense, but how does it work when the rubber hits the roads? You have this battle, I would imagine. And if you have a client coming in like, okay, we're not going to do the 28-day program, we're going to do a different program here. Are you able to work with the insurance companies and try and make these types of? I mean, how far along did you come there, or is there any?
Okay, let me explain about
Please do.
What's going on in the industry.
Yeah.
First of all, the insurance companies, okay, their job, okay, is not to pay.
Right.
Treatment center's job is to get paid. So what you have is you have two opposing forces. The insurance companies want clients to get out of treatment as quick as possible because they don't want to pay. And a good treatment center that really cares about clients wants them to stay as long as they can hold them.
Right.
And the trouble is that insurance companies actually are running the treatment centers, because they're telling you how long they can stay, what kind of medicine you have to give them, okay? And they decide how sick they are in order to stay or leave. So it's really, ridiculous. And what people don't understand is everybody says, well, the treatment centers, they got a bad rap because they did urines, for instance. The insurance company was paying $1,200 for a cup of urine, okay? So, you got some bad players in treatment centers too. Not all of them, but some of them. And they were doing 5 urines a week and making millions of dollars off of urine. So the insurance companies, okay, started to close some of these treatments down by not paying them or holding their money up. Okay, even the good ones, so they put you on an audit. So if you don't have deep pockets, you go out of business.
Yeah.
So everybody, lately the news is focusing on the treatment centers being not good guys, and they're trying to they're hurting the clients, which some of them do. Some of them are buying insurance policies just to get the client in, and then they terminate the policy. This way they can get paid. Then there's patient brokering, where guys are putting clients into treatment centers, and the treatment centers are paying for them, which is illegal. And then the insurance companies, it's just mind-boggling, because the client is the one that suffers.
That seems like
and if the insurance companies would start to really think about stuff, things like a business look at it. First of all, client goes into detox. They come out, they relapse. Or they go to a treatment center. They come out, they relapse, they go to another treatment center and another detox, and then another treatment center, another detox. By the time you're done, the insurance companies are spending a ton of money doing a methodology that doesn't work because it's too short of a time. Now, what are we basing 90 days on? Well, they call the Physicians Referral Network. It's where doctors that get caught, using drugs, and they have to go into a program, and it's for 90 days. And they have a 5-year aftercare program where they're monitored once a week, dropping urines and making sure they're okay.
Are you talking about doctors?
Doctors, yes.
Okay, so getting high on your own supply.
Well, kind of, yeah, I guess. Like if you're an addict and you're a doctor, you can write your own scripts. What do you think you're going to do?
Well, so these guys, but their state mandatory program for trying to get back, probably they want to get back to being a doctor in practice. In their practice means they need to do this. That's the program that they have to go through.
Yes, they go to physicians program, just like the lawyers program, the lawyers assistance program. Lawyers who are using drugs have to go to a lawyers program.
And the program is 90 days.
90 days, 5-year aftercare.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when it matters, the insurance company is like, okay, we're good to go. Like, we need these people back in society, back doing these high-paying jobs, being a lawyer, being a doctor, I guess.
Well, whether the insurance company pays or not, the doctor has to pay or the lawyer has to pay.
Oh, cool. Okay, so then the insurance, okay. So then they have to do it. So now you're saying if they don't have to pay, then they're good to go on the 90 days. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the law.
Yep.
Interesting.
90 days.
Yeah.
So it's not a law, but that's basically what they have,
Yeah.
But you see, here's the problem. People are not looking at addiction comprehensively. They're looking at it psychologically. Okay. Mommy left you when 3. You got molested when you were 5. Daddy beat you when you were 8. You got a trauma. All of this is real. All of this is an important piece of the puzzle. So I'm not diminishing that. Okay. But, now there's a but. If you have the addiction gene, okay, and there is a gene for addiction, founded by a Dr. Kenneth Blum, that's who I work with, and Dr. Ernie Noble. They found the addiction gene, I think, in the 1970s. And what they found out is that if there's such a thing called epigenetics. Now, epigenetics, all right, means that the social environment can change the gene expression so that gene will not become active. All right. But now, if you are an addict and you have this gene, it's just real simple stuff. If you start getting depressed or have anxiety, you're going to look to medicate. So what are some of the medical components that cause anxiety and depression that we're not looking at? Like leaky gut syndrome, H. pylori infection, hyperglycemia, closed head injuries, low testosterone, low thyroid. All of them have one thing in common: they can cause depression and anxiety. And if you're an addict, guess what you're going to do?
Yeah.
Treatment centers are not looking at this. They're only looking at the psychological part. So when I had G&G, we looked at everything.
That makes sense. So you're looking at this trigger in this epigenetic trigger could be from the environment, can be caused by if you say leaky gut syndrome, it means that you're not, maybe you're not eating as healthy as you should be, or anything that could trigger this.
Well, look at it this way: addicts and alcoholics, they don't eat very well. Most people don't.
Most people don't.
Okay, but look at our food supply. It's based on money. It's not based on health.
Yeah.
So it's very difficult to traverse through all the different foods in order to stay healthy.
It is. It's true.
What happens in treatment, for instance, okay, guy comes out of detox, okay, or stabilization units, as I call it. So what's going on with them? Their dopamine is in the ground, okay? Their serotonin, those are the feel-good drugs that people have to make them feel good. Okay, when you do drugs, that's what you chase. You chase dopamine, you chase serotonin.
Yeah.
You're looking for that buzz, as they say. So how do you heal the brain? The drugs damage the brain. So it's called post-acute withdrawal syndrome. Okay, and if you ask most people what you do about it, most doctors tell you time. And the reason why they tell you time is because they don't know what to do. But I do, and the scientists do. And what you do is you put them in a hyperbaric chamber.
That's something interesting.
Now, what is a hyperbaric chamber? A hyperbaric chamber has been around for 100 years. They use it for the bends. That's when people dive down far in the ocean.
Yeah.
They come up. They need to depressurize, otherwise they can die. They also found out with hyperbarics, that's oxygen under pressure, that it also can heal wounds. And I also worked with a Dr. Paul Harch and a Dr. Williamson, who went to the Senate and got them to improve wound healing for diabetics in the VA, because they were chopping people's legs and arms, and it was costing them $70,000, and hyperbarics wasn't that expensive at all. So we utilized hyperbarics for the brain. It's also used for PTSD, they're finding out now.
Yeah.
They're also finding out a lot of things about hyperbarics. Israel just came out with a study, which is really interesting. I don't know if you're familiar with what telomeres are.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. For the audience, telomeres are the ends of chromosomes. All right. And as you get older, they get the strings, okay, and the telomeres get shorter. Okay. Well, what the Israelis found out, if you do hyperbarics on an atmosphere of 2, okay, that's about 15 pounds per square inch of pressure in the chamber for 5 days a week for 3 months, a 90-minute session, that their telomeres, they found out, grew by 20%.
Yeah.
That's unheard of. That means your telomeres, what they do is there's a chronological age and a biological age.
Right.
All right. So the biological age, you're getting younger by doing hyperbarics.
Have you been in the
So
hyperbaric
that's what
chamber?
we did in our treatment center also. We also, there are other diagnoses for instance, bipolar disorder, attention disorder. What we did for that is we looked at heavy metals.
Mm-hmm.
Heavy metals like mercury, lead, antimony, all those different heavy metals can cause neural interference in the brain and can mimic those diseases.
Uh-huh.
So, our doctors are geared to just give medication to these people, but instead of chelating them out and see what's going on. So there's a lot of things we're not doing. We're not looking at people holistically or comprehensively. It's like almost like one shoe fits all.
Yeah, with the hyperbaric chamber, I that's something that struck me right off the bat. So I was kind of Googling and searching around, and I found even a video where Joe Namath was on Howard Stern, Joe Namath, I'm looking at his age, but he's up there too, right? I mean, he's not the youngest cookie anymore, and
Right.
he obviously took a lot of hits to the head. And he said he watched. It was still when he was playing. He remember watching his teammate, one of his teammates, just kind of going downhill because they're taking so many hits. And he said, I'm just gonna. He decided he's just gonna go get an MRT or MRI, and check out his brain. And he said that the whole left side of his brain was not getting enough blood flow, like they could see instantly. So they did. He did something like 40 dives. That's what they call it, right? When you go in there, it's like they call it a dive.
They call it dives, right?
And
that's what I lecture about to people about hyperbarics. I have a hyperbaric chamber in my home.
Oh, really? I was going to ask you, how have you done it? So if you have one in your home, I guess that answers the question.
Yeah, I've done it. I've done a lot of them. Like I said, I'm going to be 75. I still compete. I still fight. I train 5 days a week. I eat pretty good, not great, but pretty good. I take my nutrients. I don't take any medications for anything. And I just keep moving along, singing a song.
Yeah, moving along, singing a song. But I mean, this thing about the hyperbaric chamber, I really, when you give these talks, do you just, like me right now, do you just see people just going, what? Why is this not like a bigger thing? Why is nobody talking about this? Why? I've never heard about it before. And I'm actually one of these people that tends to look for, I like to look, and I like to kind of get my life hacking going. My wife's a pharmacist, and I come home with new supplements, and I'm like a guinea pig. So when I hear hyperbaric chamber and you have one in your house, like I have a sauna in my house.
I have that too.
Yeah, and that
you have an infrared sauna, right?
I have both. Yeah,
well, infrared sauna is the one you want, not the one with the rocks.
Yeah, because you like the infrared waves going through your body, right?
Right. It goes into about 8 inches.
Yeah. Yeah, I have one where you just sit up right with your spine against it, right, and it just goes right through the spine. But yeah, there's different ones, right, where you can have panels everywhere that is basically.
Yeah, that's what I have. I have panels anyway on my feet. I have it, all around me.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things. I'm also into alternative medicine for anti-aging. I'm currently doing I do testosterone. I do. Because when you get to my age, your testosterone gets low. I also do what is known as peptides, 1295 with bromelain. And what that does, it gets rid of your visceral fat and helps with collagen in your skin. Yeah. So there's a lot of things that are out there that people don't know about. They don't do. And doctors, when they say, oh, you don't need any vitamins or nutrients.
Yeah.
So I was giving a lecture to a bunch of addiction doctors up in Gainesville, and we were talking about nutrients. So one of the doctors goes, John, I don't mean to, disagree with you, but if you eat properly, you don't need any nutrients. So I says, I tell you what, doc, look around the room and let me know who eats properly. The whole place broke up laughing.
Yeah, it is so.
I mean, most of these guys were overweight. All right. You could tell they weren't eating properly to begin with. Yeah. And what is properly anyway? When you look at some of the things that's going on in our farming, we're not turning the soil. We're not, doing different plants in the soil, different, vegetables in the soil. So we're depleting it. We're spraying on all these different chemicals that kill bugs. What do you think it does to us? Then you go some of these places that call themselves organic, all right? The next farm over is not, and their spray gets brought in with the wind on top of their organic stuff.
I mean,
so it's really difficult to traverse what is good, what is not good. I go to the health food store, and we buy organic vegetables. Hopefully, they're organic. Yeah. But you can tell usually the color, you can tell the taste. It's different.
Just the amount of like vitamin C. I always think of a paprika. What's it? A bell pepper. My German. When I have a bell pepper in my hand, and you cut it, and it's like the instant that you cut it, you feel like it's already starting to lose its energy. It's like the more that you do with it after you cut it open and slice it open. And this is like you said, where did it come from? Did it come from my own garden? You know, where I know, like even in my own garden, I'm across the street is a huge field and it could get windy and I don't know what they're spraying their field with. You know, I mean, it's not like the old days.
All we can do is the best we can do. Look at the water, our water supply. Our water supply across the country is in bad shape. I have a system that I have outside my house that does from 1 micron to 10 microns. And then I have a big unit that it goes through coconut charcoal, you know, to clean out as much as I can of the things you don't want to drink. Right. And then in my house, I have another filtration system that does reverse osmosis. And I drink that water. Now, most people, I laugh when they say, well, I drink bottled water. I say, well, you don't even know where the bottled water comes from, number one. But also, number two, do you take a shower? Do you take a bath? They go, yeah. Well, guess what? If you're not doing anything with that water supply that's coming into the house, your body is absorbing it through showers and baths. So what are you doing? You can drink all the water you want. You're getting it another way, the wrong way.
It's weird because it feels like a lot to think about too, right? It's like, well, I'm just trying to live my life. I'm just trying to go to work and pay the bills, right? You know? But once you start going down this road and you start looking at all the things that have crept into our society, all these different, you know, toxins that we're taking in on a daily basis, and it's like no wonder you're stressed and you're burnt out, and you know you have so many things that you just don't even realize. The food that's on your table, you have such a disconnect from what's.
Well, look at the cancer rates. Look what's going on.
Right.
You know, the pharmaceutical companies don't want to really cure anything.
Oh, that would be the worst.
Once in a while they'll throw a cure in here and there.
Yeah.
But remember, we're like walking cancer registers for them.
Right. Right.
So, you know, most people say, well, I got to live my life. I can't be watching everything. Well, look, let's put it to you this way. If you make millions of dollars, okay, would you trade that in for your health?
Pretty easy.
I
yeah.
think we all know the answer.
No.
Because if you don't live a quality of life, the money doesn't mean anything.
Right. But I mean, I guess what you said there was interesting. I'm thinking about like trying to work it into my life every day, and you said something about cancer. And that was something that just kind of struck home. We've had to deal with that a little bit in the family lately, and it's just like, wait a minute, you know, where does it come from, right? And that's trying to figure out like where did it come from? I'm a totally healthy person. I'm doing everything. I eat healthy. I get on my bike. I do, you know, and still I'm struck with cancer, you know, and then
you got to look at it this way. Or, you know, you can get nuts with this stuff, and I don't suggest anybody out there gets crazy with all of this, but do the best you can, all right? And you know, you want the percentages on your side,
right?
And you know, like, look, our water supply is not too good, food supply is not too good. There's a lot of things a lot of chemicals they're putting in processed foods that people are eating that cause cancer, and you know. Europe doesn't want some of these chemicals. We have it. It's interesting. We're like with DDT,
DDT is one of those
spray they were putting on the plants and the vegetables to kill the bugs. They found out that gives cancer. So now they stopped doing DDT. They send it over to South America. They're doing it on their vegetables, and then they send their vegetables over here.
Yeah, I mean,
so it's almost like a cartoon what's going on.
And one thing,
everything today in society is profit driven, and there's nothing wrong with that. But if you're doing it just, you know, and don't care about other people or other things, I don't think that's correct.
Yeah, there's a mix, right? I mean, you can make money and still care, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I don't know why there's this fallacy of thinking like if I cut the corner here, it's like maybe it's a fast turnaround. Maybe it's the longer game would seem to be though that you build your business in a way that authentically helps, or
that's
helps
what we
people?
did with our business. I'm sure you read. I started my business with $300, and they had one employee. That was me.
Yeah.
And then what I did was I hired a friend of mine, and then he had his son, and who knew the internet, and we grew, and we were doing all of this science. We were doing all kinds of things. In the beginning, we had people chasing us for money. We sometimes we couldn't even make payroll. You know, but as things went on, people started to recognize what we were doing, and our clients were getting well and staying in recovery.
No.
So, we used to do the nutrients, amino acid therapy to upregulate dopamine.
Right.
We did a research paper with Dr. Blum on that. And what we found out is that when you use certain amino acids, okay, within a compound, that you can upregulate dopamine. Now, how do we know that? We did a double-blind study with the University of Gainesville. They used an MRI, and we did a rat study with that, and then we did a human study. So that's what's going on with that.
Was it this tyrosine or tyrosine
No,
supplementation?
tyrosine you're talking about?
Yeah, was that what you guys were? Was that what?
No. No, it's a compound. It's got many different amino acids in it. It's not just the alpha-linoline, L-tyrosine, tryptophan, GABA. I mean, it's a compound.
Okay.
Now, see, here's the deal. When people talk to me, they go, well, the industry, the vitamin industry, nutrient industry is not regulated. They're 100% correct. There's a lot of garbage out there. But like when we were doing research, you have your compound that you have, whatever's in your compound, let's say it's calcium, all right? And if you have calcium bicarbonate, okay, only about 20% gets into your body. Instead, if you have calcium citrate, it's the opposite. 80% gets into your body. So we used to get assays from a third party, from the nutrient company, okay, that's GMP, it's a third party, and we had to know what was in the nutrient, let's say it's B6 or B12 or whatever, where it came from, what kind of fillers are in there, what's the molecular structure of it, because when you do research, you have to give the exact same product to different universities for them to check and see if they come out with the same results. You can't just use anything from any place. So what we used to do is we used to get what we call federal assays, which gave you all that information. And if the vitamin company was cheating on that or messing around with that, that's a felony.
Were there any companies that remember any names of companies where you say, oh, they always had good supplements? Like did you ever test supplements coming straight from supplement companies and be like,
we had to make sure that they were, appropriate for our research.
Yeah.
And there's a great company called Protovite. It's matter of fact, he's a formulator who has formulated many different products, and that's where I get my multivitamin and minerals from. It's a nanotechnology. In other words, you take it, you put it in your mouth, you squish it around, it's a liquid, for 35 seconds, and then you swallow it on an empty stomach.
Okay.
Now, what that does is it bypasses the gut. They did a white paper on it, and it came out to be in your bloodstream at 189 seconds.
Huh. Is it an oil based, like a lipo?
No. It's a nutrient based, not oil.
Okay.
It's called, you can look it up yourself. It's called Protovite.
Protovite. Yeah.
Great product. Listen, when I get clients chasing me for a nutrient, you know it's good, because addicts, they don't chase you for anything unless they're feeling good from it,
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I'm a big probiotic guy myself, and I know you can feel the difference just in general.
Well, if you're taking probiotics, I don't know if you know this, you have to take prebiotics. Now, the reason why you see a probiotic, look at it like this. Probiotic is a seed, okay, that's growing inside of your microbiome or your gut, okay? Prebiotic is the rain that helps that to continue to grow. Mm. So it's very important that you feed the probiotic with prebiotics.
So that's something that my wife always talks to me about when I have cravings for sugar. She's like, you're feeding the bad bacteria, you know?
Right.
And she's once you get off for sugar and you don't have those cravings for sugar anymore, they don't come back either. It's kind of like this craving. It's weird. It's like these bad bacteria want more of that sugar. They want you to eat that piece of cake, and it just turns into this cycle. And if you can break that, but I probably, again, 90 days. I tried it though. I was just the worst person to be around. I stopped. She got me on this keto diet.
Uh-huh.
I was not a friendly person. That would.
Well, you wanted to bite everybody. I know.
Yeah. Every time I showed up to my mother-in-law's house, she just came. She showed up and she gave me cookies. She's like, eat something, you know. I'm like, I'm fine. You know, it's a hard battle.
Well, how old are you now?
I'm turning 38 this year.
Okay. If you have, the younger you are, okay, you have to start now. Okay, building a foundation for when you get older, because this is the most important thing that's happening right now, is building a foundation as young as you can. Make sure you're exercising. What people don't understand is exercise is very important. And it's important for a lot of things. Heart clients, patients, they tell them to exercise. Exercise for addicts is extremely important because what it does, it gets rid of stress. Stress depletes dopamine, and exercise does two things. One, it gets rid of stress, and two, it increases dopamine.
Yeah, I feel great afterwards.
So it's just like you ever heard of a runner's high?
That's totally
true. That's what happens when you exercise properly. Now, I'm not talking about anaerobic. I'm talking about aerobically.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true though. Every time I get back from jiu-jitsu, I'm always just in such a better mood. It's not just the fact that I had a social contact with, that's also plays a role, but just this hard work, just this getting all of, like you said, the chemicals in your brain, the right ones they show up.
Everything changes. Exactly. What people need to understand is you have to, I know it seems overwhelming, okay, because if you're not doing any of this stuff, everything becomes overwhelming. So you just do a little at a time, and we're feel good junkies. If I feel good, I'm going to continue the process. Yeah. But what people have to understand in the beginning, it's just like exercise. In the beginning, it's painful. Yeah. And you're out of breath. You can't breathe properly. You get aches and pains afterwards. But that's just the beginning, and you work through that, and then you come out the other side. And as you increase your level, okay, you'll go through that again a little bit, and then you'll feel good again. Meditation. Meditation's been around for thousands of years. Mm. Now, what does meditation do? What it does is it calms everything in your mind. Your mind is like a team of wild horses running. Right. You have to tame them, and you have to give your brain a break. All right, so you meditate. And I do that every day. You can start off with 5 minutes. If you don't know how to meditate, you can go online. There's a lot of different ways to meditate. Really important. Take time for yourself, calm your spirit, then do your workouts. Do your best to eat as best you can. Stay away from processed food and sugar, and drink plenty of water. Very important. If you're drinking a lot of coffee, what's happening is you're losing whatever water you're drinking, because coffee is a diuretic.
Yeah, coffee's one of those tricky ones too. Especially coffee's one of those tricky ones too, because in the morning, it's it turns into this habit, right? And you have a cup of coffee, and if you want to drink water, which I made this thing, I'm going to drink more water, but I didn't leave my first cup of coffee out. So then I get to work and I have to instantly get rid of all that water I just drank, So it turns into, so it's kind of like, eventually it's like, well, what if I just leave that cup of coffee and just drink water instead, and I exercise, and I get up in the morning and I do something that replaces this caffeine push, basically.
Well, you don't have to put yourself crazy, okay?
But
I have a cup of coffee in the morning, but before I
yeah,
have my coffee, I drink water.
before.
And you want water at room temperature. You don't want water ice cold. Not good for your system.
Yeah. What do you think about this testosterone replacement therapy? At what age did you get started in that, if I may ask?
I think I was maybe in my 40s.
Yeah, see, my wife laughs at that. She's like, "You don't need that." I'm like, "Well," and so I got my blood tested, and I wanted to see. But I guess there's one more level. There's a different types of tests that you can do, and we just did a straight just to see how.
Well, there's free testosterone
Right.
and total testosterone.
Okay, and you really want the free testosterone is what you want to know, right?
Right.
How much is flying around, and that's the true number that you want to have. And I remember just thinking of like a number. I didn't know what it was, but like say 900 is the number that I had when I was 25, and it's got to go down over the years. Once you get around 40, it just starts to I mean, probably from the age of 25 on, it starts to decline, right? Their natural production of testosterone.
Right. What happens is you want to stay within a range. Okay. I think it's if I remember correctly, I think it's anywhere from 300 to 850.
Yeah, of something like this molecule. They measure it with like per like in your blood. There's a certain what's this concentration, moles or something like that. I don't really know what it's called.
Yeah. Well, they measure it. They measure your testosterone levels, free and total, and you check that out. It's easy to find out what's going on. You get blood work.
Yeah. Well, the thing is though, you go to the doctor and they take your blood, but they don't test for any of that stuff. Like you have to ask. Hey,
well, okay. This is the problem.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Problem is that a lot of times insurance companies want to know why you're testing for this. Yeah. It's not about health. If you don't take care of yourself,
yeah,
who's going to take care of you?
It's true. It's true. It's such a fallacy because you grow up, you're just told that doctors know everything and the doctor, whatever they say is right. And so when you go there and they're like, oh, you don't need to do that. You're like, okay, I don't need to do that. I'm good. Right.
Well, it's a cookbook. They have a cookbook.
Yeah.
Okay. And then you have different personalities that may change some of the recipes, but it's still a cookbook. Yeah. Most doctors don't believe in nutrients. Most doctors don't believe in a lot of things that are alternative. Oh, there's not enough research on it. I get a kick out of that because I was giving a lecture up in Gainesville to all the addiction doctors and it was rounds. It's very prestigious. And they webinared it across the state of what I was talking about. And I had this little bracelet that works with frequencies, right? And there's some research on it, but not really a lot, okay? And what I do is I tell them to stand on one foot and I pick one arm up and I push their arm down and see if they can keep their balance, and they fall. Usually they just fall, Then I make it a real science project. I hand them a set of keys to hold in their hand, and then I push their arm down with the legs on the side of the leg that's it's up in the air. They fall down. Then I give them the bracelet to hold on to, and then you can't push their arm down, and they don't fall. And they go, "What is this?" I said, "I told you, it's frequencies, but it doesn't have any science." I said, "Do you think it matters?"
Yeah. I mean, but when you experience that, you're like, you're good. Then you're good to go.
Well, that's the whole point.
Right.
My clients, I tell them real simple, please do not believe a word I tell you. Try it. If it doesn't work for you, don't do it.
Right. And with I just want to kind of pick your brain a little bit about this testosterone, because say you've got this number, and how, like, I have a hard time thinking I'm just going to be able to find a doctor that's going to work with me. In the States, I think it's a little bit more, it's more prevalent, or that you can go.
I would think it's more prevalent in Germany.
Really? Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I've had a hard time. I mean, I've looked around and but.
You want to get an integrative doctor, an alternative doctor.
Yeah.
That works with integrative medicine, not a regular doctor. They're going to tell you why you need that. It could cause cancer. It could cause this. It could cause that.
Yeah.
Well, if you abuse anything, it's going to cause a lot of things.
Right, because if you have a doctor looking at your blood work and they just kind of, that's the whole idea with testosterone, in my opinion, is you just want to keep it at this healthy level. I don't need to go through the roof. I don't need to, do the Arnold Schwarzenegger thing. Whenever you think of testosterone, you hear of just steroids and all these big things that all these monsters out there. But it's like, no, I'm just trying to keep my body. I'm actually keeping my heart disease down. I'm keeping all of these sicknesses with testosterone, with a high level or a healthy level of testosterone. I'm keeping all of these diseases at bay, which is something that.
But if you start getting into peptides, okay, that also helps tremendously.
Can you explain to me what peptides are? I think of Pepto-Bismol when you say that. That's about as much as I got.
You can drink that too if you want.
Is it peptides are in there? Or?
Jesus, how do I explain peptides?
I mean, I didn't really Google that. I guess I could just Google it, right?
Yeah. Well, my doctor put me on peptides. Okay, and I know what it does. It helps with your skin, with collagen. I know it helps with visceral fat. I lost about 20 pounds already. That's because of diet, exercise, and utilizing the peptides. It's not one thing that fixes everything.
Right.
It's a combination course, and it's consistency. If you're not doing things consistently, forget it.
I just do this for the people listening, just in case. I just read it real quick, if you don't mind, from Wikipedia. It says peptides are short chains of between
amino
2
acids.
and 50 amino acids. Okay. Linked by peptide bonds. See, my wife listens to this. She's like, duh. She knows all this stuff. She's a pharmacist, so she knows all this stuff. Sometimes she listens to the show and I come home. She's like, "You totally are so wrong about what you just said." Chains of fewer than 10 or 15 amino acids are called oligopeptides and include dipeptides, tripeptides, and tetrapeptides.
Yeah, I know for anti-aging, it's used. It's used for a lot of different things.
And this whole telomere thing, I listened to Dr. Rhonda Patrick. Do you know who she is?
No.
She's all about this telomere length. She's just all into these. She does so many studies. She's actually got an interesting website, and she has a whole team of researchers, and she's talking about vitamin C, vitamin D, all of these things where you're like, really? She even got me into doing infusions. Like my wife and I started doing vitamin infusions.
Okay, here's another thing. I do that also.
Yeah?
I do vitamin infusions. And see, but my doctor, she makes her own up. Okay,
right.
Depending on your testing that you do. Yeah. We do a micronutrient test to see where you're deficient.
Right.
And then you see, a lot of these people that are doing infusion, they get it off the shelf, and they give it to the people. We don't do that. We make it individually for the person's profile. Especially
because, I'm one of these people that it's good that I get my blood checked because I take so many supplements. I just think, I'm just going to take vitamin D, and I'll take, when I go to jiu-jitsu, I take magnesium afterwards so that I can sleep well, and I overdose on a lot of stuff. And then it was like, well, Remington, you need to cool it down on B12. My B12 levels were just almost in the neurotoxic levels. Like, they're just way too high. There's not really any side effects.
Well, more is not necessarily better. What you need to do is get a micronutrient test.
We did. That's exactly what we did. We did like the blood level, micronutrient blood test, right?
Right.
And you're just able to see, okay.
Then you see where you're at, and you see what you need to take, and if you're taking too much of something. Look, if you're taking too much of certain things, it's not good for you either.
Right.
And then you got to see where you're getting your nutrients from. Make sure on the label it says GMP.
Yeah.
That's the third party that looks at, what the people are doing.
Is that also in Europe?
I'm not sure about that one.
I'm sure there's a similar. If it's not, then it's probably something similar to the
right.
Right. And I mean,
you want to make sure it's regulated because a lot of these people are like snake oil salesmen.
Yeah.
So it's
you have
to make sure where you're getting your products from.
Yeah, it's so that's the federal GMPs for dietary supplements. Okay, so they're good manufacturing practices, GMP.
Right.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, that's the thing. Like I mean, that's my wife likes to laugh about that a lot. That I'm testing and doing this and that stuff. But in the end, doing these blood tests revealed some deficiencies. and it also revealed where I was just overdosing on certain things. So, but the one thing that was interesting to me was about vitamin C and cancer. And so people like really, they want to put their hands up when you start saying this.
Well, I know doctors that do that. They do high volumes of vitamin C for cancer.
Yeah.
Linus Pauling is the one
Right.
that did the Sentinel research on vitamin C. Are you familiar with Linus Pauling?
I found because of a family member, I ended up landing on his research, right? And he's got a lot of he's probably like the most prolific
Yes.
radiologist, or I would say no. How do you call it? What's the type of doctor that treats cancer? Gosh, the name of it's just falling. Anyway, yeah, he's on the edge of. He's been doing it for years too, right?
Yeah, and I worked with Dr. Stephen Schoenthaler, who was one of his just right under Linus Pauling, who worked with Linus Pauling, and that was one of my advisors for what we were doing with vitamin C. So, I go to where the research is.
Right.
But you got to understand about researchers. Pharmaceutical companies hire researchers and they tweak their research. Oh, that's unethical. Well, guess what? They're human beings. They get paid. They might be unethical.
Yeah, it's too bad that always creeps in there. But in the end, I feel like if you are that kind of person that's out there looking for it, and obviously, like when you have that ahead of you, if you think, okay, here I'm diagnosed with cancer, then you get creative real fast. But then you go to the
you got to realize something. Your microbiome or your microbiota, the flora in your gut, okay, that's where dopamine and serotonin is manufactured, most of it, about 90%. And it goes up what is known as the vagus nerve up into the brain and deposits it. So the gut is paramount. You have to work with your gut and make sure you stay on top of that, because when your gut goes out of balance, so does everything else in your body. They call the gut the second brain.
Yeah.
Now, there's other things that you can take if you're interested in health and anti-aging and things like that. It's called exosomes. Are you familiar with exosomes?
Exosomes. What are exosomes?
Hello?
I'm listening. What are exosomes?
Okay, exosomes are the little bubbles that come off the cell wall of a stem cell. They're the RNA messengers. Okay. They're the ones that give the instructions to the next cell.
Interesting.
So the ones that I do is from umbilical cords.
Right.
And what it does is it helps with inflammation. And inflammation is what's causing a lot of disease.
So how do you do
it through an IV?
Through an IV.
Yeah. Now, I also did stem cells. The University of Miami School of Medicine has a trial that they're doing with Josh Hare. He's the head scientist there. Yeah. And Don Sofer, who owns the Fontainebleau, he owns the Aventura Mall, Turnberry. He donated $25 million to the University of Miami School of Medicine. And what they're doing with stem cells is very interesting. They're taking stem cells from young people,
right? And
they're doing an IV with you. I had that done, by the way, and into your body, and it's the young cells that are talking to the old cells, and helping them to stay younger.
Right.
You have more energy. You have less inflammation. It's really interesting, and they're doing a lot of research on this. And exosomes are coming, that's becoming the leader in a lot of this research.
I didn't realize that. So the way that I understood it was when you're doing, like, I was also looking into that. It's called Regenokine.
Yeah.
Regenokine. Have you ever tried that?
No, I don't know what Regenokine is, but I thought you meant regenerative medicine.
I think it also is a stem cell therapy on some level. It's proprietary, so when you look at it, it's kind of like you have to just
I don't know what that is, but I can tell you, the people that I work with, we had to go to Nassau to get it because you can't do that here in the States.
Right, because of
once you take stem cells out, even your own body, you must put them back in there the same way you took them out.
That's the law.
Yeah. Now, you can't grow stem cells and then put it in, because then they consider it a medicine.
Right. And what they're doing, I think there was something where Mel Gibson's father was going down to Venezuela or something.
Yes. Yeah. That's right.
So in
Now,
Venice, yeah. So you're
what's
like,
interesting
yeah.
also,
What are
what's
they?
interesting is that when you do stem cells or exosomes and you go in the hyperbaric chamber, it increases at 800 fold. There's
800
research on
fold.
that too. Remember, oxygen grows things.
Right. Yeah. The thing about that, when I found a YouTube video where this guy was explaining that what was it? Castle Craig is the first addiction treatment center clinic in the UK to include this.
Oh, Castle Craig, yeah, they were doing research on. Yes, I spoke with them years ago.
Yeah.
They were doing on alcoholics with liver problems.
Right. So it totally the liver was like regenerating and getting healthy real quick because
Right.
of this.
Well, I wouldn't spend 50. Well, not a lot of people can't do what I did, but I wouldn't spend $50,000 to have a hyperbaric chamber in my house just to look at it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, getting back to
return on investment, right?
right. Well, when I started my treatment center with $300, and as we went along, and 18 years later, in 2012, we sold it for 45 million. Now, if you would have told me that back then, I probably would have punched you in the face thinking you're making fun of me.
Right.
I still don't believe it.
Yeah.
Because I was homeless when I went to treatment, and I got out of treatment. A year later, I got divorced, and the wife got the car, she got the house, she got everything. And a friend of mine owned a hotel and lent me a room in the hotel. And I had a little jar where I used to put quarters when I had quarters, and somebody lent me a bicycle to ride around. And my kids used to come with me, and we all used to cry about, Daddy, how come you're here?
Yeah.
And I used to say, this recovery sucks. But the bottom line was, when I used to tell my therapist or my group that I used to go to, that they used to say, did you use today? I said, no, it's already got better, John. So
yeah,
that's the way it rolled.
That's kind of like the first 2 chapters of your book. That's as far as I got. But it's kind of like you came up in a hard world, and instead of just being a victim to that, you still just kind of made it happen anyway, right? You still like said, okay, shit's bad, but I'm still gonna fight it. I'm never gonna quit. You never let it get you down, I guess.
Yeah, no matter what life deals you, as long as you don't give up, okay, there's always a chance that you can overcome it. And that's why I wrote the book, The Kid from the South Bronx Who Never Gave Up.
Yeah.
And my father was, as you read the book, my father was a heroin dealer. My uncles were hitmen. Matter of fact, one of my relatives, it might be my uncle, they threw me a wedding when I was 20. And it was really quite interesting. I married a Jewish girl. I wasn't Jewish, so they wanted a Jewish guy, but then they met my family, and they said, "Oh, they're wonderful." I guess they didn't look too deep, And what wound up happening is, at the wedding, the caterer insulted one of my family members, and the next day they found him dead. So when addicts come to me and they go, "Oh, you don't understand my family," I said, "Look, I'll tell you what, I'll loan you mine for a while. Let me know how you do."
Yeah. Yeah, the apple doesn't fall from the tree. Fall far from the tree. I hear that in your voice, like when I see in the picture, and if you're such a nice guy, but I can see that side of you. I can see.
Well, I'm from a mafia type family.
Yeah, I mean, you got a little bit of gangster
I would
in
never
there.
be like them, and I wound up being just like them. I wound up doing collection work for the smugglers. I wound up dealing drugs. I wound up doing all those things that I thought I never would do. And I led 2 lives. So it was an interesting journey, I'll put it to you that way. I wrote the book to help people, to show them that no matter where you come from, I only went to the 9th grade. Yeah. Here I am writing books, lecturing to scientists. I lecture all over the world. I lecture to over 200 countries. And whoever would have thought that? I mean, come on, a kid from the South Bronx,
Yeah, but you're like you're you got this intelligence about you. You have this street smarts about you, and you applied it in this area that really helps people, right? I think that's something that no matter what you do, if you're out there, if you really honestly want to help people, you're just putting out that good energy out there, right?
Yeah, well, you get, they call it karma. You get the money in the bank, the karma money in the bank. Yeah. And, like I said earlier, my son almost died from this disease. Yeah. And today he's got 18 years. He's doing great. I deal with a lot of families that their kids die. Yeah. I go to a lot of funerals, unfortunately. And I'm just out there, I'm doing these podcasts. I'm just going to be launching my own video tube series. And I want to help God's kids. I used to curse God when I was early in recovery. How God can do this to me, poor me, everything is poor me. Blaming everybody else, but ourselves. Yeah. And you learn to look at yourself through therapy, through going to self-help groups. Anything I ask anybody to do, I do myself.
Right.
So, and that's just the bottom line. I don't want anybody to believe what I'm telling them. You don't have to. Do whatever you want. I always ask people, they go, oh, you got to do this, you got to do that. It's so much to do. I say, well, how well do you want to be?
Right.
If you want to be really well, then you do these things. If you want to be half well, then you do those things.
It's hard, though. It's hard. I have a friend, too. I want to talk to him. Like, come on, man, lose some weight. I really want to, but I don't want to, every time I see him, I don't want to just bum him out. He won't want to hang out with me.
It doesn't work.
It
doesn't work.
It's like, how do I?
You know how hard it is to change yourself? You expect you to change other people?
Right.
It doesn't work.
Right.
What happens usually, they have an event, they get a heart attack, or they get diabetes, or something happens. Yeah. And then all of a sudden they go, well, I got to change my diet. No. You're working after the fact instead of before. That's Eastern medicine. That's Western medicine. Fix it after it's broken. Eastern medicine is fix it before it gets broken.
Yeah. I like that idea of working on this epigenetic level. Don't even let the addict have a chance. If you are predestined to be one, just don't even let that switch get flipped to begin with.
That's right.
It's
but people don't listen. Most people don't. We became a pill society. You got a headache, take a pill. You got an upset stomach, take this. You got that, take this. And what the problem is, we're not looking at, why do I have a headache?
Did you drink enough water today?
Why do I have this? You want to give me all these pills, but why is this happening? Let's get to what's really driving it. And that's what I lecture about.
I
want to know, okay, I'm an addict. Why did I become an addict? What's going on with me? How can I prevent myself from relapsing? What do I need to do? I don't want somebody just to tell me, oh, go to meetings, go to church. But what about the rest of the body? Otherwise, I just send my head there and I leave my body home.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, and the head it kind of almost works itself out if you're doing the things, right? If you're drinking water and you're taking time to meditate, even if it's 5 minutes, your brain will get to where it needs to go, right? If you feed it,
you have to be consistent.
Consistency. That's one of those things.
Consistent. Without consistency, forget it.
And what you said about
knowledge is power. Without action is worthless.
Right. Exactly. Like what you said about starting small too. I think that's something that really helped me when I was trying to figure out what I wanted. Even if it's just, I started taking cold showers. I wanted to try this, and Wim Hof, the guy that I was following on, he said just take for a half a minute, just do 30 seconds. Anybody can fight themselves in a cold shower for 30 seconds, But in the end, he's doing 10 minutes in an ice bath, right? But he just adds 5 seconds to it every day. And the same thing happens with eating healthy or with meditating or any of these things that are good for you or working out. It's like, well, just do 2 minutes. Anybody can do 2 minutes. And then if, like you said, if you can just keep it consistent and you stay on it, then that 2 minutes turns into 10 minutes. It's
really funny. People that are really doing their best to stay healthy and do the right things, get the other people going, well, you're a fanatic. You're doing too much. Why are you doing all that stuff? And
Yeah.
I say, well, how's your life?
Uh-huh.
How's your blood pressure? Do you have any diabetes? Do you have, well, yeah, but that happens because of this. No, that happens because you didn't take care of yourself.
Yeah.
Now, even if you take care of yourself, you could possibly get things. But at least I got a better shot than the other guy's not doing anything.
Yeah. And you feel better. I mean, you just feel better, right? Do you ever have any hyperbaric parties for your friends?
No.
I do that with the sauna sometimes. Like when I have a buddy come over, I'm like, come on, jump in the sauna. You gotta.
Oh, that's different. That I do.
Yeah.
Have friends come. If you go to my house, it's like I have a hyperbaric chamber. I got an infrared sauna. I got a massage room. I got a health spa in my house.
Yeah.
I have different things that I use to help your brain, to focus, to do things. It's I'm pretty crazy about all this stuff. I'm always looking at new things, new technologies. One of the things that I became one of the leading experts on is Ibogaine. Are you familiar with Ibogaine?
Yeah, that was on your YouTube channel too. Can you talk about that a little bit? Yeah, we didn't even touch that yet.
Yeah. Well, I work with Dr. Deborah Mash. Dr. Mash is the pioneer in Ibogaine. Now, for the audience to know what Ibogaine is, it comes from West Africa, from the Wedi tribe, and they use it as a rite of passage. It has a psychedelic component to it, and if done properly under medical supervision, it's safe. If not, you could die. Real simple. First of all, you have to make sure your heart is in good shape. You have to make sure of what drugs you have on board, and you have to have an overall physical to see how well you can tolerate this. And it has to be done, in my opinion, by a medical person. Because, I know there's a lot of people out there, they go to shamans, they go to this, they go to that. Look, they mean well, they want to help people, but if they don't follow certain, procedures, they can hurt people without even knowing it.
Right.
And some of these guys are giving people things, they call it Ibogaine, and it's not.
That's the
so
worst.
You have to be. Matter of fact, I'm just doing a YouTube about all of this.
Okay.
About how to do it, where to go, and all those things. I've been doing that for over 20 years, working with Ibogaine clients. I also worked with Dr. Mash. I still work with her, and I also was on St. Kitts with her, the island of St. Kitts, for about 12, 13 years, detoxing people with Ibogaine. Ibogaine's an interesting compound. You do Ibogaine, and let's say you're on heroin, or you're on methadone, or you're on coke, or you're on alcohol, and you do Ibogaine, and within 24 hours you're detoxed and you have no cravings. It's unheard of.
That's interesting. So does the reason that you want to make sure you're physically, can you hear me okay? Is my mic a little bit
just quiet? Barely. If you sound, yeah.
Yeah, sorry about that. So the Ibogaine is, does it get your heart going? Does it get you pumping?
Well, no. What happens with Ibogaine, it lowers your heart.
Ah, okay. It brings you down.
Right. So if you're taking benzos and the person who's giving you Ibogaine doesn't know that, you can have a cardiac arrest.
Okay.
So, and if certain drugs you have on board that don't mix with the Ibogaine well, you can also cause problems. See, when we did it in St. Kitts, we also did it as a study. So right now, currently, Dr. Mash has her trials going on. Excuse me, with the USD trials. Yeah. So let me drink some water.
Yeah, for sure. I'll take the chance too.
There you go. Both of us are drinking. Okay, we're in.
Right on.
Now, the way we used to do it is we used to put a heart monitor on them. My job was they sent the clients to me in Miami. I would put a heart monitor on them for 24 hours to see how their heart is functioning, not just an EKG, because an EKG is just a spot check, okay? You want a whole check for 24 hours to see how the heart's functioning. Then what we did is we checked them for what drugs were on board. We gave them a total physical to see how everything is functioning. And then I would take them to the island of St. Kitts. We would give them, check their heart again. We would check to see what's on board. My job was to prepare them for the Ibogaine journey because it's a very spiritual journey. And what happens with Ibogaine is it brings you back in, I'll do it simplistic, it brings you back into your childhood as an adult.
Interesting.
And you look at all your past traumas and your emotional upsets, and you get what is known as a cathartic experience.
Right.
So, you get resolution from all of them. The journey is what we do is we sit them in a hospital bed. We give them a test dose to see how they tolerate. And then 45 minutes later, if they tolerate okay, we give them a full dose. We put a headset on them. We put eye shades on them to keep them in a containment field. We put an IV in their arm and a heart monitor on their chest in case there's any kind of sentinel event. And they're usually out for 8, 10, 11 hours, depending if they're a fast metabolizer, slow metabolizer, and how their liver is functioning.
Oh, shit. 10 hours.
Then they come,
10 hours.
Yeah, 10 hours. 8, 10, 12, it all depends. Everybody's different.
That's interesting.
And they go into a dream state and they see all kinds of different things happening. They might see images. They might see, hear certain sounds, all kinds of different fragmented pieces of the brain, of your past experiences. My job in the post time, it would be to help them extrapolate out the information that they saw during their journey and help them to make sense of it and see what they have to do for the rest of their life. So they're detoxed in 24 hours, no cravings, and very minimal, if anything, withdrawals, which is unheard of. If you have an opiate addict that's doing 10 bags of dope a day for 10 years, 20 years, whatever, usually would take them anywhere from 7 to 9 days to, stabilize, not totally detox, but stabilize.
Right.
There's 24 hours. If it's methadone, we've done people with 80 milligrams of methadone. Takes anywhere from 21 to 30 days to detox or to stabilize, and they still would have a lot of residuals, 24 hours. I mean, it's incredible. But it's a Schedule 1 drug, and you can't do it in the United States.
Right. There you go. There you have it. That's the next thing, because I'm researching a little bit on psilocybin. Right? Yeah. This from magic mushrooms.
Now the mushrooms, the psilocybin helps with depression and helps with anxiety when done under proper conditions.
Right. And that's the thing that I wanted to ask you about. Yeah.
Sorry?
I'm sorry. That's what I wanted to ask you about. I wanted to ask you about because they always say the setting plays also a big role in.
Yes.
And I wonder, if you're having IV and you're laying in this bed. I mean, obviously with the headphones and the shades, once the Ibogaine is in you, that doesn't bother you at all. You're not bothered.
You don't even know. No. Your body is your motor skills is like dead.
Yeah.
I mean, you can, if you want to go move and get up to go to the bathroom or something.
Yeah.
You're gonna want possibly throw up.
Okay, so it's good. It's just good to be.
Yeah, you just want to lay there. Everything else just goes that way. I used to do pre and post. So before they went in, I would talk to them about their past traumas, their emotional state, what some of the things that they want to accomplish in this journey. It's not just for detoxing people. It's to recalibrate their brain. It's an addiction interrupter, is what Ibogaine is. Yeah. And it's done very, in a spiritual way, not just a medical way. So, some people say, oh, you got to do spiritual way, you got to do ceremony. Yeah, you can do it that way too, if it's safe. Okay, but we do that also, but also with medical help.
I was going to ask, so how do they do it in Africa? Is it basically like you said, around the shamans around the fire, and then
the shamans, they they do all the ceremonies, and just like they do with ayahuasca, and they dance and they sit by the fire, and and then they share their information out, and it's see, like ayahuasca, Ibogaine is let's say a number 10 on the medical plants. Ayahuasca is an 8. Then you got psilocybin is probably about a 6 or a 7, and you got other things, different things that are, in intensity.
Yeah.
Ibogaine is the big dog. Let's put it that way.
I was gonna say, because I've heard about DMT, I've heard about ayahuasca, but Ibogaine is so like they take this frog for DMT. It's kind of the same.
Then they do the frog, but that's also dangerous. People died from that too.
Yeah. And people say it's like it shoots you. I was listening to this researcher talk about it. He took it himself, and he said it was like a rocket that shot him into the middle of the universe, and it was like, hold on, and there was no, but it was really quick. That was like within.
Yeah, I think 20 minutes.
20 minutes and you're back, and you're like, okay, you have a near-death experience. That's obviously going to help.
It's a poison. You do know it's a poison.
Yeah. So when you think you're going to die, and then you come back, you're pretty grateful, I guess, when you come back, because you're like, I didn't die.
We got to remember, Ibogaine's used to detox people, not just to go on a spiritual.
Not just to go psychedelic. Yeah. Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
But psilocybin's making a lot of headway for depression and anxiety and all this other kind of stuff.
Well, but how much kickback did you have? I mean, just the YouTube video that I found on your channel, there was the first guy is like, no, Ibogaine, it's not going to work. And he was very, I didn't watch it long enough. Maybe I was waiting for you to come in and kind of discredit this doctor that was discrediting Ibogaine, right? Because did you have a lot of kickback from that, or do you still?
Well, here's the deal. You have to understand, some of these doctors work for pharmaceutical companies. The pharmaceutical companies, they cannot, capture the Ibogaine, because it's a plant. So they can't, put
they can't license it, right? They can't
right.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's bad. So it's got to be Schedule 1.
Here's what people say about Ibogaine. Well, it doesn't work. It's a placebo effect, or it's dangerous. What people don't realize, people go to detox, they're half dead by the time they get to detox. People die in detox, regular detoxes.
Yeah.
So if something's not done properly, you can have an event. Absolutely.
Yeah, detoxing is hard. Even the standard 28-day program for someone that's got issues.
Well, you got to understand, detox comes first, right? It's usually, the insurance companies, they're a joke. It's usually 5 to 7 days for opiates. It's usually 5 days for alcohol. And if you're lucky, 9 days for benzos, which should be more like 14 to 16 days for benzos because of the half-life. So
benzos can be really bad,
It's all about
right?
money. It's not about helping people.
Yeah. Did you hear about this Jordan Peterson? He had a real hard time with benzos, and
benzos are tough.
Yeah.
And they get very angry and very nasty after they come off of benzos.
And it's very dangerous getting off of benzos, right? Like
yes, because you can have seizures.
Right.
You see, and that's why the insurance companies don't mess with that. Okay.
Yeah. It's okay. It's fine. It's fine. I got 3 kids, man. I know what it's like. That's cool.
Yeah. She's so cute, but
Yeah, you got a baby in there, huh?
Yeah, she's 14 months. Oh, she's adorable.
Right on. That's cool. Actually, you know what? I've been picking your brain enough. I'll let you go back to the family. I appreciate you taking the time.
No, whatever you want to talk about, we're good. My wife and my daughter. That's my daughter's daughter, and they're running around the house with her.
That's how it is. I mean, I don't know. I'm actually intrigued by this. I'm intrigued by the idea of going, like, I'm not afraid of that, I think the same thing with psilocybin or even with THC, and if you take enough of it, it's going to put you into these these states of minds where it feels like you're peeling back an onion. You're going deep down into your subconscious and things come up, you know.
But a lot of people don't realize most religions had plant medicine, even the Catholic Church way back when. So, you know, these things that God put on the planet, if done properly and with the proper attitude and things like that, they're very spiritual drugs. And they work, they're not meant for recreational. They're not meant to do every day. They're not meant for any of that stuff.
Yeah.
You know, and people often ask me, have you ever done Ibogaine? I said, yep. And the way I did it was I've been treating people with Ibogaine for years. My son suffered from anxiety, severe anxiety and mild depression. So, and I knew that helped people that came out of Ibogaine. So I brought my son over to Mexico and we did the Ibogaine together. And he doesn't have his anxiety and depression anymore. And if he does, it's mild and he knows how to overcome it.
Yeah.
So that's how I wound up doing Ibogaine. I wanted to support him and I figured, you know, let me do this and see, you know, this way I really know exactly what they're going through.
Yeah.
Besides just viewing it. I wanted to experience it.
What was it? Was it tough though? I mean, because I can imagine like going, just like I said in the first 2 chapters of your book, it's probably not a fun place to go back to your childhood.
You know, I did so much therapy by the time I got to do my Ibogaine Journey. Remember, this is years later.
Yeah.
With a lot of therapy and a lot of, you know, self-realizations. And
okay,
it wasn't terrible for me at all. It was just showing me my path. Matter of fact, the path that I'm on right now, talking with you.
See, that's what that really intrigues me about this, right? Because it's there's so much stuff that we don't really have cleared up in our brains, right? We do what we do. I set up this studio. Why do I do this? What am I doing here? You know, what am I really trying to achieve? These deep questions that people, it's a really hard question to ask too, a lot of times. I mean, just if you think about your life and all the outside pressures and just everyone's got their own situation and you're trying to do something new, you got to cut out time and you have to kind of figure out, like for me, I'm not making any money here. So it's kind of like, well,
me neither.
Yeah. So it's like, well, shouldn't, you know, the wife is like, well, shouldn't you be making some money? You know, and it's like, well, I could just build a website, right? But instead I'm having like a deep conversation with somebody about Ibogaine, right? So it's like, well, how do I justify that? And all these things, these pressures. And I guess, but when I really go internal and I really see, like, what do I get out of this conversation and what maybe other people get out of the conversation, it feels like even if just 2 other people are watching this, even if it, you know, maybe those 2 people get something out of this conversation that.
If you help one person, you help many people. When addicts get clean and sober, not only do you help the addict, but you help the whole family.
Man.
So, you know, this kind of work is really important. If people want to know more about me, they can go to Giordano.com. That's Giordano.com. And they could see some of the research. They could see some of the podcasts that are on it, some of the television shows and radio shows I'm on. I'm just there to help people. You know, that's what it's about.
Yeah, that's what it's about. I'll put all that stuff also into the show notes for anybody that's watching this. I'll link to all of your work. I'll look out for that YouTube that you're going to put out. So you're going to do this. It's going to be a YouTube, like a compilation on Ibogaine, like how to go about.
Well, I have one that's Ibogaine. I have one that's about the microbiome, the gut.
Ah, cool.
I have one that's going to be about the hyperbaric chamber and other things that people can do and why they can do it and what's the science behind it.
Yeah.
You know, I watch some of these other YouTubers, what they're doing, like for instance, with Ibogaine, and it's just, I don't know. They're doing the best they can, I guess, to help people also. And I'm just hoping mine gets out there and people get to understand that this is a serious drug. You know, it's not to be played with, and you better make sure that the people that you're doing it with are legitimate and they're not giving you something else and they're not taking your health into consideration.
That's the problem, right? Because it's not legal. you're kind of just left to whatever's available, and you don't even know who to ask, where to go, and it's like you don't want to expose yourself. And
right. Well, everybody, you know what happens with a lot of people? They get lost in the ceremony. They go, "Oh, yeah, but this is so cool, man. I'm in the jungle and I'm with the shaman, and wow, yeah, that's cool. If you're healthy and you can do it, and you know that you're doing, let's say, Ibogaine, if you don't know who you're dealing with, you don't know what the outcome's going to be.
I mean, in the jungle, a lot of things can happen. You're not always guaranteed to come back home out of the jungle.
Well, people are risk takers. Addicts are risk takers, so they'll do anything with a risk.
It just sounds like a good time. Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. Well, then I guess on that note, we can say goodbye for now. I would like to circle around back to you eventually. Maybe just I'll follow you on YouTube a little bit and then wait till those videos come out.
Give me a call. My number's on my book.
Yeah. Perfect. All right, man. Yeah. Then thanks again. Thanks for your time, man. I really had a nice conversation.
Thank you.
All right.
Have a nice day.
Take it easy, man. All right. You too. Bye-bye.